Hi there everybody, this is Steve Carson with Penn Fishing Tackle. We're here on the Searcher. We are experiencing another fantastic bluefin tuna season, catching all kinds of bluefin tuna and hopefully catching a lot more for the rest of the year. Boat happens to be in today, so we're doing a couple of fun videos. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was bluefin tuna jigs. We talked about bait in some other videos. Right now I want to talk about jigs, my favorite way to catch them, and quite often the most effective way to catch them. We're going to start out with the daytime, because in the daytime they can see your lure really well. So you kind of have to be a little bit more careful, and bluefin tuna, even big bluefin tuna, generally eat little food. So they're not going to eat big old baits this big. Probably my favorite jig for the daytime is that this happens to be the Williamson Gomame. I'm going to show that to the camera. That's 100 grams, which I think is around, my metric system is not very good. I think that's around 4 ounces. And I like that. I change almost all these lures to more heavy duty hooks because we're catching bigger fish on the Searcher than they're catching pretty much anywhere else in the world on these types of lures. So I've got a heavy duty 2.0 size treble hook on that one, and that's my favorite lure for the middle of the day when the fish can really see well. At dusk and right at dawn, as the sun is coming up and going down, where you've got a little bit of limited visibility, a lot of times the fish are a little bit deeper. Maybe they're as deep as 250 feet. That 100 gram jig is only good down to about 200 feet. So if they're any deeper than that, then I'm bumping up to 170 gram, and that was a new lure. This one, as you can see, has caught some fish. Probably a couple, 3-4 fish on this one. 170 grams. Again, my metric system is not very good. And sometimes you can get by with a 130-pound fluorocarbon leader to prevent those bluefin tuna from biting you off. Sometimes you've got to tie it straight to your 50 or 60-pound line. Sometimes you can get by with 80-pound fluorocarbon. Check with your crew on the day that you go out. Believe me, the crew of the Searcher wants you to catch fish. They will make sure that you are set up exactly right. And this is probably the biggest lure that I'm going to use a treble hook with. Anything bigger, we're going to some single hooks. Also, on any of the lures that you're using a treble hook with, don't add any other hooks. It can be a real safety issue for you and for the crew. So just like that, with or without the leader, for dawn and dusk situations, that's been a really good one for me. Now we're up to 280 grams. Once again, my metric system is not very good. I think that is, that's around 10 ounces or so. And now I'm up to a 200-pound test leader with a nice heavy, maybe a 400-pound test swivel. It only has to be about 2.5, 3 feet long, doesn't need to be long. And in this particular case, again, that one's gotten some bites too. In fact, I think that one, I might have caught a really big one on the Searcher a couple of years ago. And Celia may have put the picture up of that some time ago. But this is one of my favorite ones, a 280 gram Williamson Kensaki. That's good down, 280 gram jig is good down to probably about 300 feet, depending on the current and the wind. So if the fish are deeper than that, or it's windy or something like that, you may not be able to use this one. And you can see I've got these super heavy, and I mean they're heavy. I think that is a 7.0 5X heavy hook on there, and I got one off the nose and one off the tail. That's kind of my favorite way to do it. Quite often the fish will bite the lure as it's sinking, and so he may not be able to get like a really good aim on it, and might bite it at either end. So I kind of like that style of hook. However, something to bear in mind with the hook on the front and the hook on the back, sometimes they'll get snagged with the other one and you're going to bring the fish in sideways. So you might have to pull a little bit harder to get that fish in if he's hooked sideways, but you know what? He's hooked. Now we're up to 300 grams. Again, my apologies on not knowing the metric system very well. I think that's around 12 ounces. Feels like about 12 ounces. Once again, I've got a 200-pound test fluorocarbon leader, about 3 feet long. A couple of nice big single hooks, one on the front, one on the back. A lot of these have glow zebra stripes on them. questionable whether or not the glow really matters, and here's why. Last year I didn't want to talk about these. This year I'm talking about them. The Eddy Bomb. Okay? Does it look like a 12 or a 16 ounce sinker? There's a reason that it looks like that. That's what it is. Now you have to be careful. Some of the sinkers that you'll buy in your local tackle store just have a little piece of wire in the front, a little piece of wire in the back. You need to make sure that you get one of the ones that are wired all the way through, or a big tuna is just going to literally pull the wire out. And I got a big giant treble hook on the bottom there. Some people will use 2 assist hooks off the top end, and in either case, you've got about a 2.5 or 3 foot. I mean, look how heavy that leader is. They don't care because this is all for the nighttime, and they're literally just biting at the profile. The reason that this works so well is that it sinks straight down, and you can get to the depth and sometimes if the tuna are down at 400 feet, and you can get to the depth quickly and show the fish. Believe me, they can see this in the middle of the night. Don't think that they can't. And it's a little bit smaller profile. When they're feeding on smaller bait, they love these. Captain Mike loves these on the Searcher. Eddy Bomb or fancy sinker, call it whatever you want. And speaking of which, when the fish are down at 400 feet or deeper, sometimes deeper, here's a 400-gram jig. And again, I think that's around 12 or 14 ounces. For me, I'm old. That's the heaviest jig I'm going to use. If I have to use a 500-gram jig, I'm going to be resting. But you know what? The 500-gram jigs work really well, but that will work down to about 500 feet, the 400-gram jigs will. And on these longer jigs, I like to use 2 hooks on the tail end, because most of the time when it's way down deep like that, the fish are just literally going to suck it all the way in, even a big one like this. And a big fish that's going to be down deep, you don't want to hook them in 2 different places because they become really hard to pull in. Your mileage may vary, because in some cases with some styles of jigging, I jumped over this but I wanted to hit it, with the newly popular speed jigging or fast pitch jigging that has a lot of different names, where you're cranking up with a mechanical motion, 2 hooks off the nose end is usually the best. So, and then that's a 220-gram jig, good size for that mid-depth speed jigging. So exactly what jig is going to work on exactly which day and exactly how deep, not only is that going to change every day, that's probably going to change every hour. So check with the crew of the Searcher. They will make sure that you are set up the right way, and you're going to catch probably the biggest tuna of your life. See you on the Searcher.